Just wanted to give you a little update about a video I made last week about feeling isolated. It was nice to be able to talk to other people about it. A couple of people commented and asked if I had someone that I could talk to, and that does help. Last week I was feeling very, very frustrated. I've had problems, and I think I mentioned it in the video. I've had problems with my knees for a few years now, to the point where it was around about 11 years ago when I had an x-ray on, I can't remember if it was left or right, but it was basically one of my knees. Now, when they showed me the x-ray of my knee, my left knee, that I had a couple of months ago, there was no cartilage left. It's bone on bone, so you can imagine the pain of having is pretty severe. But dealing with depression in the circumstances that you are can be really, really isolating. I did reach out to somebody and I did speak to somebody. And when they've spoken about their own experiences and they've given them their sort of point of view and how they've felt exactly the same, it does make it feel a bit less intense. That you know that you're not the only person that's dealing with these feelings at the time. I think one of the best things I ever heard from either a counselor or somebody on the internet had said that, you're not your own feelings. Feelings are not truth. It's a feeling, but it's not a truth. You're feeling low, you're feeling down, you're feeling worthless. That doesn't necessarily mean it's true. Talking about the knees, I had to really persuade the physio to inject my knee. I haven't had it done yet. It's not for a couple of weeks. Their sort of solution was, and I kid you not, go away, lose weight, and come back in 6 months. And to me, it was like, okay, that's fine. I know that I need to lose weight. That's a given. That's not something that I'm not aware of. Not aware of. I know that I need to get the weight off, because obviously having a knee replacement is major surgery, but I didn't realize that it got so severe that they were jumping from, oh yeah, here's some painkillers, to, yeah, we'll probably most likely need to replace your knee. Dealing with those two things last week, the feeling of isolation, the feeling of, that I must be the only one that's going through this, and then having to deal with the physical side of things as well. Looking for work and being unemployed has been a pain in the ass. But I can say that the job centre and the people who I speak to each time, maybe every couple of weeks, have been brilliant. I mean, I tell them, I said, look, this is what's happening. This is what I've done. This is, and I'm very plain and open with them about these things. I don't sit and moan for like 2 hours. It's like, but I tell them exactly how it is, and they've been very, very good with me, because it's like, it's a frustration. So you know that you can do certain things. You know you're good enough to be back in a job again, because I was obviously working in civil service last year, and I love the job. But as far as my mental health is concerned, and as far as obviously my physical health is concerned, that they have been really, really patient. So they're not just trying to shiver you on, or like. Whereas my experiences with this physio was just basically get on with it. It plays in a way that I actually made that video last week about isolation and about that feeling. When I look at very sad stories about young guys who have made the decision to take their own lives, I find it so sad because people in their 20s and 30s, the biggest killer, or the cause of death for young people, especially young men, about 80%, 80, 90% of the people who do take their own lives are young men. One of the things I've always wanted to talk about, especially on this YouTube channel, is the gurus and the sort of people that people look up to. So those people, sitting in the chairs, trying to be intellectual and talk about, how difficult it is in life. I mean, where do we go to? Where do you go to when you're feeling these sort of things? Do you just, keep it all enclosed, boxed up? I know some people who do that and who will point blank refuse to talk about mental health, and they will talk uh, about other things, lots of other different things, but they will not talk about how they're feeling. And it's always that funny joke, isn't it, that that men will just immediately close up the minute somebody asks them about how they're feeling. But surely we should be having the conversation. Surely we should be talking about it. Surely we should be saying, this is how I'm feeling this week, without feeling like you get called names, or you're being bullied because you're talking about your feelings, so therefore you must be puffy, or the usual nonsense that you hear, this garbage, this sort of like masculine hetero sort of things where you will hear people criticizing others. I can't remember, and I don't know even want to say his name, but the guy that's the influencer, Mr. Tate, who would has criticized um, men for talking about their feelings and discussing mental health with other men, and say that it's like it's almost effeminate, it's not manly, it's not manlike. And if it wasn't so serious, I just would laugh at something like that, because we've got to a point where we've got all thousands of people in the UK alone taking their own lives due to mental health and being unwell. And yet we have somebody who is an enormous influence on younger guys saying we shouldn't be talking about um, mental health because it's not the right thing. It's not the manly thing. What is manly? Tell me. Well, give me the answer then. If you've got the statement, you're going to come out with the statement and say you shouldn't be talking about mental health in such a way. What's the answer then? Give me that answer. What's your solution to the suicides? What's your solution to the mental health, and I will use the word crisis, in this country? Is it just to blame somebody else? Is it to blame the immigrants? It's to blame somebody, the government, or is it to blame, your family, whatever it is? What's the solution? Or do you don't think it's your role as an influencer and somebody who's an online personality to come up with those answers? But yet you will give your opinion on other subjects and topics and say men should be doing that. But actually, well, man up. Is that what it is? What, you got to man up and just take it on shit and just get on with it? Is that what it is? All right, okay. And then when it comes to 2 or 3 years down the line, your mental health has got so bad, then bang, gone. I find it extremely frustrating that we live in a world where we can communicate so fast, and yet we've got these people who are just bullshitters and make millions out of it at the same time. Money's never been an issue for me. It's not as in I'm not seeking money, you know, like I want fame, fortune, fast cars. As long as I have a roof over my head and I have clothes on and I've got food, you know, But someone like him to put down men and say that they shouldn't be talking about their feelings. Absolute bullshit. As you, as a viewer of this, if you've got this far in the video, how do you cope with it? What do you do? Do you talk to a partner, a friend, wife, son, daughter, whatever it is, a relative, doctor, therapist? Or is it one, or you just closed up and say, I can't, I've done it, don't even know where to start? And I think that, I think that's a lot of the cases. You look at these sort of influencers online, and you'll watch them, and you'll take in what they're saying, but then when it comes to your own sort of like mental health, where the fuck do you start? What do you do? How do you start talking about things? Fortunately, I've been the sort of person that since I was a teenager in the 1980s, I've always been open to talk about stuff that's bugging me, stuff that's getting on my nerves and I'm struggling with. And I think especially with somebody who grew up as being somebody who was gay in the 1980s, which was a completely different world, that it's always been on my agenda that I will talk about the sort of problems that I'm going through. But I know there's a lot of people who can't do that and are not honest with themselves. I think it's so important that people do have those conversations and you do look at yourself and think, how am I doing? How is my mental health? How am I feeling about certain situations? Having that conversation with yourself and being honest and saying, look, I'm struggling, and maybe mentioning it to somebody. It's just sad that we have a world where people like Tate will have so much influence on younger minds, where so many are looking for guidance, looking for meaning. It is important. I can't stress enough to talk about things and be honest with yourself and be someone who will have those difficult conversations about how you're feeling. I really do. It's one of the things I hope that every human being has.